Staff of the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission returned to work Friday morning with renewed calls for the removal of the Executive Secretary, Samuel Sarpong. The workers Thursday stopped a board meeting after locking the main door to the office of the Commission. Joint News investigations earlier this year uncovered some questionable payment at the Commission, which the workers are acting upon. Joint News' Maxwell Agbagba has been speaking to some of the workers. First is the chairman of the PURC Workers Union, Abubakar Jabaru.
Today we are working. When you say a board meeting, we're able to prevent an illegality from taking place. And as the Constitution of Ghana enjoins every citizen to kind of stop any commission of an illegality. We've had patience with the illegal board, and they've been taking decisions to the detriment of staff. And that has continued for long. And yesterday's own, we thought that we have to put a stop to it because it undermines the respect and the due processes that are, governing the PURC. So that was what happened yesterday. And you were here the whole day. We must acknowledge that you did a great job by staying with us because it's a civil right of every individual to at least try to insist that your rights are given to you. So as at now, we are working and we are just using your medium to let the necessary authority know that we still need to have our board immediately. And you can see from the staff that they are ready to work. And as at yesterday, you could see that they were so charged because he has lost grace of the organization. He has lost the control over the staff.
Okay. So now you, what essentially you're calling for now is a new board?
A new board and the executive secretary immediately leaving because he has no moral right to still hold himself as the executive secretary of PURC.
For 6 years, I have 2 children. I quite remember like some 3 years ago, there was promotion and I was told in the face that whole year, what did I do? I got pregnant for 9 months. I went on maternity leave for 3 to 4 months. So virtually, I didn't do anything, so I don't need to be promoted. And it has been happening. I came with 2 gentlemen. One has been promoted like 2 or 3 times, and I am still at the same place. So if a whole chief executive is claiming that women can't be promoted or would have to be delayed in promoting, then what's the essence of us working here?
I was not told that I'm not being promoted because I'm getting pregnant, but I was told that because we are getting free medical care, that is why we are giving birth. I'm giving birth anyhow.
Now, 27 suspected armed robbers and drug peddlers have been arrested at Kasoa in what appears to be renewed efforts by the police in the central region to tackle crime in the town. The Kasoa Divisional Police Command says the suspects were arrested at Obom Road, Kasoa Zongo, New Market and Adom Estate. It comes on the back of a Joint News story highlighting insecurity in the town.
My younger one waked me up and tells me that some people were barging to the house, so I should come and see. So when I went from the gate, so when I got to my porch, then I was hearing the other guy, because they were in already. So the other guy was like, give me the gun, telling my younger ones that they should come, let's push the door, because there is a thief, because they are holding gun. I was trying to push the door, like they're trying to break the door, when they started shooting. So the first shoot was from the window, and my brother was there. Okay. Actually, that was when they shoot him.
Look at the situation too. We have a lot of foreigners in here. That is when I talk of foreigners, the Nigerians, young boys. You don't know what they do. Nobody knows what. But you go to the big estates, houses around, and there are those occupying those buildings. So.
Let's now speak with the Kasoa Divisional Police Commander, ACP Dennis Akobdem, on this issue. ACP, thank you for joining us on Joint News. Now, can you tell us what the situation is like at Akwele Big Man Town and its environs?
Currently, can confidently tell that Akwele Big Man Town now and our men are on patrol in municipality.
Okay, we're having some difficulty hearing you, but you were talking about the fact that your men are now patrolling these areas. Is that accurate?
Yes, please.
All right, and we are having these arrests, or these arrests are coming on the back of Joy News reports about a number of incidents, armed robbery incidents in the areas. Do you have any of the suspects, or have any of the suspects been actually picked up, or are any of them amongst the 27 you have arrested?
For now, we are asking victims of armed robberies to report to us on Monday at 12:00. We are going to organize an identification parade, and if any of them are identified, then the investigation continues from there. But those we have arrested for now, we can't pinpoint that this crime, but we suspect that they might have committed one of the armed robberies within the municipality.
Now, do you have any leads at all as far as the two robbery incidents we have reported, which is the mobile money merchants who have been attacked?
For now, I wouldn't say we have an exact lead, but we have picked up certain information that we are following up in the investigation.
Now, some of the residents attribute this upsurge in crime in Kasoa to the fact that, to the presence of foreigners in the communities. Is this something you're taking seriously?
Yes, I wouldn't say there are foreigners in Kasoa municipality, but I cannot confidently confirm that they are solely responsible for the crimes, because in the past we have arrested suspicious characters, and some foreigners were identified as having committed robberies. But at the same time, some of the suspects they arrest, or some of the armed arrests, are Kenyans. So I wouldn't say the problem is fully on the foreigners. But we are conducting our normal sweeps and investigations, and investigations will tell which category of people to the crimes being committed.
All right, thank you very much for joining us on Joy News Prime, and that's the Kasoa Divisional Commander there. Now, going to the Shanti region, the Asante Hini Otumfuose Tutu II has cautioned leadership of the Anti-Galamsey Task Force, Operation Vanguard, to ensure its members do not allow illegal miners to corrupt them. Speaking at a meeting with the leadership and other authorities in the Shanti region, Otumfuose Tutu lauded the achievements of the group so far and urged all Ghanaians to contribute their quota to help combat the menace.
Some chiefs and government officials are part of this due to the problem of corruption. Now that the president is leading the fight, you as a task force need to be committed and help us save our land and resources.
Leader of the Operation Vanguard team, William Ejapong, has meanwhile revealed some recalcitrant illegal miners arrested by the task force have been prosecuted. Colonel Ejapong also stated the Shanti region had the most arrests of foreigners engaged in illegal mining. He says though the region has least number of people arrested in the clampdown, 15 of 36 foreigners arrested by the task force were mining in the region.
The plan we have is to take objectives as and when they come up. I will not divulge how we intend and where we intend to go. But let me tell you that the task is for us to deal with the menace in Ashanti region. And that is what we're going to do. I want to use this opportunity to entreat all those who are still on the sites that please get your equipment and your personnel off the land. As far as I know, there are plans ahead which will follow this particular ban that will involve reclaiming the land, that will involve reforestation, and I know that the youth who are crying or who really need job will certainly be involved in this whole package. Last 2 days, during their prosecution, there was a pronouncement of conviction. My understanding is that they have been given a jail term of 4 months each, with some option to pay a fine. That is for the judiciary to undertake. For us, our role is just to make the arrest, make sure that people leave the sites. What goes on after the arrest, I leave it to the judiciary to handle. If you go to the site, just take a look at one of our forests. We entered one forest, I think, 4 days ago during the visit of the Minister for Defense. And it was so worrying. You can't imagine that as citizens, we are doing this to ourselves.
Deputy Ashanti Regional Minister Elizabeth Ajimang is meanwhile optimistic the task force will prevail against illegal mining.
It is true that they have arrested some of the Chinese people there, but I don't blame the Chinese people. I blame the inhabitants, because they go out there and bring them and take them to that place to mine. So if he's saying it, I don't have anything to say about it. That is what they have noticed, and it's the truth.
Today he gave a report, and they are yet to move into 6 other districts in the Ashanti region. What will you say to them?
They are doing a very hard work, and I thank them very much for doing that. We all know what these Galamsey people are doing to our rivers. People cannot drink local water anymore. I would say local because when I was growing up, we used to drink from the streams, but now you can't drink because of the type of work they are doing over there. They have about 6 more, right? 6 more districts to do. I would just say that we all pray to the Almighty God to give them the necessary support so that they can work very hard for us. Otherwise, we are destroying our own selves.
Still ahead on Joy News Prime, President Kasoa called for a formula that would produce a new overlord of the Dagbon Kingdom as quickly as possible and bring lasting peace to the area. We'll be back with that. Stay tuned.
Stabilize.
President Kasoa says he expects to witness the installation of a new Yana in December during the Damba Festival to oversee the Dagbon Kingdom. A protracted chieftaincy crisis between the Andani and the Abudus has stalled the installation of a new chief 15 years after the murder of the late king, Yana Yakubu Andani. A group of 3 eminent chiefs led by the Asantehene Otumfuose Tutu II is yet to agree on a roadmap for the installation of a new king after several years of talk. President of the Northern Region House of Chiefs, Lepura MNG Jawula, who led the chiefs to the presidency, demanded government intervention in bringing lasting peace to the Dagbon area.
President of the Northern Region House of Chiefs, I'm always at the service of the people of the Northern Region, and in this regard, I have been pleased at overtures made to settle the Dagbon crisis. I can assure you I will always stand by you in your efforts to bring Dagbon together again. I would urge you to push ahead no matter how hard it may seem. I will always be by your side. Internecine ethnic conflicts do little to support development of an area. So while we seek to expand on the fortunes of this country and to push forward our growth and economic development agenda, we need the support of all and sundry on the way forward. When you have pushed this agenda that far, the performance of your government and your place in history would be indelibly assured.
President Kasoa said his government is ready to provide all the needed support to achieve peace in the area.
Peace in Dagbon doesn't just involve Dagbon, it involves the whole of Ghana. It's a matter of high national priority that we should get Dagbon stabilized and at peace. And secondly, whatever formula that you, the traditional rulers, the eminent traditional rulers, yourself, the Nairi, and the Asantehene, whatever formula you agree on as the way forward and as the roadmap for resolving the crisis in Dagbon will have the full support of my government and myself. So I'm appealing to you, and through you to the other eminent chiefs, to put your shoulders fully to the wheel and see what you can do to give us a formula. I would love to see that this year, by the time of the Damba Festival in December this year, there's a new Yana in Muyindi.
Government's flagship free senior high school program is likely to face a setback in the Brong-Ahafo region due to inadequate infrastructure and other educational facilities in underserved schools there. Quite a number of the schools, including the Menji Agriculture Senior High School in the Tyne district, have virtually no basic teaching and learning materials, with the lack of classrooms and accommodation for both teachers and students another serious challenge. In the following report, Joy News' Nestor Kafuya-Joma explores how the lack of infrastructure could negatively affect implementation of the free SHS program.
Menji Agricultural Senior High School in the 10th district of the Brong-Ahafo region was established in 1993 as one of the few schools to train students in agricultural science. Unfortunately, most students who gain admission to the school prefer other courses than agriculture due to non-existent facilities for both academic and practical agriculture. With a current population of only 259, Menji Agric SHS has a dilapidated administration block, 3 broken down official vehicles, a rickety bungalow for only 8 teachers, as well as a 6-unit classroom block. The challenges, according to the headmaster, Gabriel Fosumenso-Fori, will adversely affect the school's operations if more students gain admission due to the free SHS.
The challenges that we have now, as at now, facilities. We don't have dormitories. We don't have dining hall. We want to get boarding status, and we also want to get more programs like general science and other things that will attract a lot of students. And the facilities that we are in dire need of facilities. Well, when the school is endowed with facilities, that will attract more students into the school. For lack of facilities, we don't get students at all. It is maybe this government policy of free education that will make, because when the government is going to pay, and then the government puts you in the school, if you don't come, you will not get the scholarship. That is the only hope that we are looking, or that is the only hope that we will get students.
The Tyne District Assembly has intervened to complete construction of a girls' dormitory project which was started by an American Peace Corps, Ama Sarah. This may not be enough to accommodate more students, but Tyne District Chief Executive Charity Foruwa Jumo says the Assembly is working hard to get the needed facilities that will enhance quality teaching and learning at the Menji Agric SHS.
I was in my office one day when the headmaster came with this lady I call Ama Sarah, and they came to tell me that Ama was leaving at the end of August, but she started a project which she couldn't complete, and they would love me to. They were pleading with me to come and intervene. So I came down with them to have a look at the building. It was about 90, if not more than 90% complete, and her problem was that her worry was that she will have to retire the money. She had a few materials and she had some money, but it was not enough to complete it to this stage. So we had a management meeting. We had the planning officers and the budget officers coming in, the procurement officers, and then we decided to come to their aid.
Meanwhile, a 12-unit classroom block at the Kasoa Senior High School in the Eastern region is on the verge of collapse 5 years after its commissioning. The school, as a result of the danger it poses to the students, has stopped holding classes in the defective structure funded by the Ghana Education Trust Fund. Eastern Region correspondent Edwin Kofisian visited the school in the Upper Manya-Krobo district and reports the authorities now conduct classrooms in old, dilapidated structures while teachers use the shade of trees as their offices. Before we bring you that story, we're getting word that the deadline for the CSPS online registration has been extended to the end of September 2017. So I just read that to you. As you can see on the screen, the deadline for accessing the internet to complete the computerized school selection placement process has been extended to the end of September 2017. The website, and they've repeated, is www.csSPS.gov.gh. The ministry assures parents and guardians that no child who qualified to be placed in a public senior high school will be left behind. And it's signed by the minister himself, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, and it comes at a time when several people have complained about their frustrations trying to access the portal and place people on the system. Let's bring you the story from the Eastern region now. All right, we are having a bit of a challenge bringing you the story, but we will bring it to you after the break. We're taking a break. We'll bring you business news where the Bank of Ghana has increased the minimum capital for requirements for banks to 400 million cedis. Stay tuned.
Again, good evening to you, and thanks for joining me on the business segment. The minimum capital requirement for banks has been increased to 400 million Ghana cedis from the current 120 million Ghana cedis. This is what Joy Business has picked up from persons close to the recapitalization process. The following Business Desk report has more on this.
This will represent an increase of 233% over the old capital level and will be the biggest capital increase witnessed in the banking landscape. Sources say commercial banks will be given up to December 2018 to meet the new capital level. The decision was taken after what has been described as an extensive engagement with players in the industry and also current development in the economy. This should mean that any bank that has not met these new capital levels by December 2018 could lose its license to operate in the country.
Now, earlier, Managing Director of Cal Bank, Frank Edu Jr., expressed worry about what could happen to local banks in this whole recapitalization process.
Let me say that I am not averse to the requirement to increase the capital of banks. I think it's something that has to be done and should be done as quickly as possible. However, I'm also concerned about how we do it. Clearly, I think from what we are hearing, the increase or the new requirements would be significant. And when that happens, there's a possibility of the industry, so to speak, being hijacked by foreign investors. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think it's important that we recognize that we should still have indigenously grown and financially well-capitalized banks. I am not in any way suggesting a staggering or a differentiation as was done in the past, okay? But I think that should be kept in mind. It's clear that from the discussions this morning that we're probably also looking at a strategy where smaller banks will be forced to amalgamate, merge, etc. I think it's probably a cultural thing, and over time that people will come to realize that it's just business, and therefore we should be able to put 2-3 banks together. You know, there is a certain psychological resistance and barrier to that notion, but over time the business of doing business of banking and the financial requirements of doing the business of banking within the framework of the new capital requirements, Basel II, Basel III, risk-adjusted capital, risk mitigation factors, etc. The new IFRS 9 proposals for calculating NPLs, etc., would force banks to look at the issue and decide that, yes, we want to join together to do the business.
Away from that, the Controller and Accountant General, Eugene Ofusuhien, has assured public sector workers whose wages and salaries were blocked last month for failing to validate their accounts through the electronic payment voucher system that they are now likely to receive their remuneration. This follows the influx of some heads of these public institutions to the Controller and Accountant General's Department premises to get their staff validated. The Controller and Accountant General disclosed this in an interview with Joy Business. Ebenezer Sabute's report read to you.
The Controller and Accountant General's department suspended salaries of 7,000 workers in the public sector for the month of August. This is because their heads of department failed to validate statuses in their respective institutions. The suspension has affected all public sector workers on the mechanized payroll whose salaries have not been validated through the electronic payment voucher system in August 2017. However, in an interview with Joy Business, Controller and Accountant General Eugene Ofosuhene explains all affected persons are likely to receive their arrears by the end of this month.
Every worker of government is supposed to be validated, verified, validated by his head of department or head of the management unit. So if they are validated to confirm that they are legitimate staff, they are government staff, and indeed they are so, we would then go back and then work out their arrears and pay them.
But ever since that announcement came up, have their heads come up with it?
Many of them are now rushing, they are running, not even walking, coming back to us, showing evidence that they have gone back to do their validation. So for such issues or cases, we would pay them next month. But next month, the validation will continue. It's something that is done every month.
Mr. Ofosuhene further explains the practice will not end until full compliance is achieved.
It's not a one-off exercise. It is part of the payroll process. When we say payroll process, we start from inputting, we start from processing, we look at the validation before we finally prepare the reports and send the monies to the bank.
So are those people likely to get double pay, so to speak?
Not
because
double
they
pay.
Will have August and then September.
Yeah, no, it's not double. When we say double pay, they will be paid for the month that is August will be paid, and then they will also be paid in September if they are validated in September and in August. As we say, those 7,000 were not validated in August. If for obvious reason they are validated in September, then they will get their arrears of the August pay added to their September pay. Okay. And they'll be
Mr. Ofosuhene spoke after a stakeholder consultation for the 2018 to 2021 government budget and expenditure.
Now, the Minister for Monitoring and Evaluation, Dr. Anthony Akoto, is to crack the whip on ministries that fail to stick to their budgetary allocations. This followed a call from some stakeholders that government needed to step up compliance with corporate governance practices. The minister spoke to Joy Business on the sidelines of the launch of a report on corporate governance by accounting firm KPMG and accounting institution ACCA.
The report showed that Ghana ranked 12th out of 15 countries assessed for good corporate governance systems. The low rank was largely attributed to a lack of enforceability of the law when it comes to corporate governance. Taking a cue from the report, the Minister for Monitoring and Evaluation committed to ensuring that compliance began with government institutions.
We will continue to use our officers to try and help myself and my colleagues do what is right and impart that onto the other public sector institutions, because it has a relationship with growth. But if bad corporate governance practices, usually you see that your growth is not sustainable. So we want to use the findings of the report. Ghana being 12 out of 15 is shameful.
You mentioned an interesting thing about officials and budget, the budget overspending. Yes, can you expatiate further on how you're going to enforce this?
The law says that any chief spending officer or any person who exceeds what is budgeted for is liable to sanctions. It's as simple as that. So if you tell me that my ministry I overspent, I have to be charged, or the chief spending officer or whoever made it happen ought to be liable for sanctions as the law says.
So moving forward, how are you going to handle this?
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Very soon you hear cases about that.
On his part, partner and advisor for KPMG, Andy Akoto, said there was also a need for some laws to be reviewed and properly enforced.
We've seen the kind of challenges that are playing out in terms of the management and governance of our state institutions. We see the kind of challenges that are also playing out in the private sector, recently in the banking industry and the shake-up and so on. So clearly, we don't have a choice. We can't afford to be complacent. We really need to raise the bar, step up to the plate, and make sure that we work in a concerted manner to not only enhance those codes that were issued so many years ago, and by this I make reference to, for example, the SEC guidelines on corporate governance issued in as far back as 2002, yet to be really revised and improved. I talk about our Companies Act, which has been, in our status since 1963, when most of us were not even born. So it's about time we really step up to the plate if we want our economy to be competitive, if we want to nurture companies that are ambitious, and anxious to play on the international stage, then clearly we need to do a lot more within this area.
It is expected that the application of good corporate governance will enhance foreign investment into the country.
I would make reference to the volume of investment that Africa in general as a continent was able to attract in the year of 2015. And this was quoted in the World Investment Report of 2016. And it shows that of all the international investment funds available, only 3.1% came to Africa. And that's not impressive. If you want to up the volume of investments you attract, then you need to put in place structures that will make investors comfortable. That way, you would be able to attract much more investments.
The report was under the theme, Balancing Rules and Flexibility for Growth.
And that's all by way of Business on the News. Many thanks for your company. For more business news, log on to myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Riafe. Have a great weekend. Good evening.
Welcome back to Joy News Prime. Former President John Mahama has refuted claims the Ghana Institute of Social Democracy is meant to indoctrinate and turn people into ideological robots. According to him, the school established by the National Democratic Congress after losing the 2016 election is meant to teach people about political leadership. Touting the ideologies of the NDC, the former president noted that the main ideologies of the party is about social safety to ensure that the poor is not left with an undignified life. He was speaking at the opening ceremony of the Ghana Institute of Social Democracy's first lecture on Friday.
Ghana Institute of Social Democracy, which was launched early last month, have received over 800 applications against the 100 people expected. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the school, former President John Dramani Mahama touted the ideologies of the NDC, indicating that its main ideologies is to bridge the gap between the poor and the rich.
And so social democracy is about social safety nets and making sure that everybody is able to live a decent and dignified life, while letting those who are business people who want to do business and make money, do it and make money, create employment. But when that cake has grown, how to distribute it, the market cannot distribute it fairly. And so the state must make sure that those social safety nets are put in place in order that the poor and vulnerable are not left to an undignified life. Indeed, some of those conservative parties that call themselves conservatives, have moved left of center and today are involved in social safety nets like national health insurance, like free school, senior high school, and others. Those are all social democratic programs. And so we must be proud of our ideological orientation, and we must redefine it so that people clear the misconception they have about social democracy.
Registrar of the school, Peter Otokuno, revealed his outfit had to turn down some 400 applicants due to overwhelming number. He, however, noted that the National Executive Council will consider the options of allowing students who go through the school contest for positions in the party to ensure that the party recaptures power in 2020.
We were not even expecting anything close to the numbers that we have today. When we opened the admission for this course, our capacity was to take 100 students. But the number of people who took the forms went beyond our expectation. We had over 800 people picking up the forms, and most of them submitted. We did a review, and we were able to admit about 420 out of the 800 people who picked the forms. We hope that if things goes very well, and we want to be efficient as a party and efficient in government, then you will need to have acquired that knowledge that we seek to impact into our members before you can hold some positions.
Some students tell Joy News why they chose to enroll at the school.
I'm very happy to be here today because as a member of this party, a true comrade, I think this gives us an opportunity for us to come and learn, for us to understand the reason why we are in this party.
Basically, you know, I'm an NDC youth activist, and there's a saying that if you want to succeed, you need to consult the past. So basically, looking at what we are coming to study today, we are going to draw down from the history of Ghana, how Ghana emerged, and also how the NDC also emerged. So I think having this historical background will provide us the limelight on how to succeed in the future.
The Tema Metropolitan Assembly has rescinded its decision taken last Wednesday to suspend Member of Parliament for Tema West and Deputy Trade Minister Carlos Kingsley Ahinkra. Here's Kwame Yanka's report.
At the emergency meeting Friday, it was decided that the matter leading to the MP suspension should be referred back to the Public Relations and Complaints Committee. The PRCC will then report back to the House after meeting the MP over his confrontation with the Assembly's task force during last week's demolition exercise. Metropolitan Chief Executive Felix Mensah Annan explained he was in a meeting with the MP last Wednesday at the Flagstaff House, hence Carlos Ahinkra's absence. Presiding member for the Assembly, Richard Fiadomo, explains why the matter has been referred back to the PRCC.
The first decision was a PRCC recommendation which was upheld by the General Assembly. So when they meet him again, and based on the recommendation the PRCC will give the General Assembly will consider it, and if it's well upholding, they will. If it is not, they may make changes, and then the House will pass a final decision on the matter. So it is a review situation that we are also looking at here. So the substantive case has been referred back to the PRCC, and it will come back to the Assembly again. We took this decision because we now have evidence from the mayor that as at the time the Assembly met, the MP and himself were with the Chief of Staff in a meeting. And of course, the MP is not God who can be omnipresent and omniscient at everywhere. So we took that into consideration, and that is the basis for which we have to rescind the decision to suspend him. So now we are giving him, if you like, a fresh start for him to come back to the PRCC, and then the issue will be brought back to the General Assembly. So it's a review situation, and I don't think it has any negative repercussion on the General Assembly or anybody for that matter.
Meanwhile, some members of the Assembly have been expressing their view on the emergency meeting.
He was not given the opportunity, he wasn't around, and we took a decision on his absence. We did that because we thought he decided not to come because there was no permission letter, no excuses from him. But now the chief has explained to us the reason why he couldn't make it that day. We are giving him another chance for him to explain to us. After all, we want development. We want people to see development in their various electoral areas. And we need to work as a team.
In the first place, the Wednesday edition, I was categorically speaking against the suspension. I was insisting that he is a human being. As human as we are, we matter falter in one way or the other. And then I was insisting that he, being the MP and the Deputy Minister of State, should be given a fair hearing.
The Chief Executive was not in by then. When he came, he also convened a meeting of leadership and said he thought the decision was harsh. He brought an appeal because he said the same issue was being discussed at the presidency, the Flagstaff House, and he went there with the regional minister to pledge that we're going to make sure we find finality to the issue, and the minister, the MP, and the Chief Executive can work together. So I thought his appeal was good, and that is what happened today. And
a 12-unit classroom block at the Kasoa Senior High School in the Eastern Region is on the verge of collapse 5 years after its commissioning. The school, as a result of the danger it poses to the students, has stopped holding classes in the defective structure funded by the Ghana Education Trust Fund. Eastern Region correspondent Edwin Kofi Sian visited the school in the Upper Manya Korot district and reports the authorities now conduct lessons in old, dilapidated structures while teachers use the shade of trees as their offices.
The 12-unit classroom block was shut down as a result of structural defects identified 6 months after it was inaugurated in 2012. This forced authorities to evacuate the headmaster, administration staff, teachers, and over 200 students who were occupying the building. Officials of Architectural and Engineering Services Limited recommended closure of the block for the contractor to rectify the defect. The concrete holding the ground floor to the top has caved in, leaving the iron rods and electrical cables hanging loosely. The situation is synonymous with the rest of the classrooms in this building. Part of the structure has developed deep cracks, as I observed during my visit. The present situation has created overcrowding in an already dilapidated old classroom block, while office accommodation has become a challenge. Staff now use the school's library and under shady trees for office and staff common room. For fear of an accident, wood slabs have been used as beams to support the building. Assemblyman for the area, John Kofi Tete, says the contractor has abandoned the project and all effort to get him fixed the problem has been fruitless.
The headmaster invited the contractor for him to come and do something about it. But you can see the gravels, you can see the sand. But I don't know what happened. The contractor also left the site. Next week or next week, the school is reopening. It's a wallet to the community, so I'm appealing to the government to come to our aid, to help us. Because I know that the free SHS is coming on, and where our children are going to stay. It's a wallet to the community.
Deputy Eastern Regional Minister Joseph Tete, who is also MP for the area, recommends the whole structure be pulled down for reconstruction.
I even visited the place and I saw a big crack in the thing. It was done by the GET Fund, so we have to contact them so that we get a contractor. And I'm even planning they should put down the whole thing for a new one to be built for the students to occupy it. So it's a great concern to me.
Upper Menya District Chief Executive Felix Nate Ojao, himself a former teacher, however, wants to buy time and AESL re-examine the building for appropriate action.
I have asked my engineers. The consultant happened to be AESL. So very soon I will personally be getting to AESL to identify myself with the situation, and then we can make a headway. Now when I was there, I was aware a contractor was giving the work to do some kind of adjustment, some kind of support to it. You cannot see that that contract has also been abandoned. And so it becomes very difficult to just take money of the assembly, go in and start doing something. And so I have been searching around it, trying to get some more information. Who is the contractor? Why has it been abandoned? And so on and so forth, so that we can see the way forward.
Until the Education Ministry, Ghana Education Service, and other stakeholders intervene, the school will continue to suffer the consequences of shoddy work by a contractor. Edwin Kofisian reporting.
Right, so we're getting an update on the Kasoa situation, or the security situation in Kasoa. And the Ghana Police Service is allaying fears of residents with an announcement that the service is working to increase police presence there. This announcement follows a recent Joy News report on rampant armed robbery of residents of Kasoa. Director General of Police ACP David Eklu tells Joy News the service is set to provide 6 more police stations for the central region town.
Thank you very much, and we also want to commend Joy News for bringing some of these issues to our attention. This supports what reports that we receive from the field. The issue about police stations in areas that are springing up is also one of the strategies that we want to address. For example, if you look at the UN police ratio, we are far way below the standard, because the ratio is 1:500, but we are now with around 1:800 plus. So we still need some gap to fill. So what we are doing is that we are actually collaborating with the communities to make sure that access to police services are closer to the communities, especially in areas that are new and are developing. Fortunately, SNIT has supported us with about 80 40 police posts that we have spread around the country. We are also talking about the assemblies that are also supporting. In addition to that, some communities are also come up to support us. And in response to that, we have developed a prototype police post that people can take, and it is less expensive than having a full-fledged police station, but at least it is good to have police access to those areas. I was around Kasoa yesterday to do a first-hand assessment, which I reported to the Inspector General of Police. And then the major problem in Kasoa now is that we need to beef up our police strength in the area, in addition to the vast area that is springing up where we need more police stations. I spoke to the divisional commander. He says that looking at the new areas that are springing up, the new settlement that are springing up, we need about 6 or more police posts in those areas to adequately cover them. So these are things that are on board. These are things that we are planning towards to make sure that we have police access to all those areas.
Reacting to fears of alerts issued by some foreign embassies in the country, Director General of Police ACP David Eklu said it is a normal practice and does not indicate a high sense of insecurity in the country. A security message posted on the U.S. Embassy's website on August 24, 2017 expressed concern about the growing crime rate in the Greater Accra region, especially in areas like Aveno, Soutum, Sukura, Bubloshi, Nima, and the Shaman. Nonetheless, ACP Eklu says there is what it calls aggressive police presence in these areas.
Embassies or foreign representation in Ghana do issue security alert to their citizens, especially those who are visiting countries for the first time. I believe that if you are traveling from Ghana to any other country and you do your security check, it is also there. They will tell you areas that are crime prone and areas that you should avoid as a visitor. So these are not new things, but we are aware of them. And if you notice all these areas, if you visit those areas now, there is police presence in those areas to make sure that we reduce the incidence of crime. But these are just precautionary measures that the embassies are taking that are not out of the ordinary. Okay, but we are not saying that the whole place is quite a decent way. That's why I'm saying that if you visit those areas now, our focus there may be seen more aggressively than any other area. So yes, we are aware of those areas. It is not only those areas, but we keep on mapping out hotspots as they come up, and then our operations are directed towards those areas.
Now imagine you're advanced in age yet cannot read and write, especially at a time when all those around you, including your children, can exhibit such skill with ease. Will you take an offer of formal education knowing the possible stigmatization that could come along with accepting it? In the town of Weja in Accra, a 63-year-old woman and other adults are taking lessons with passion and not perturbed about comments that they are too old to study. Joy News' Joseph Akable has the rest of the story.
How are you?
We are fine, thank you.
I'm also doing well. Now, today we are going to look at addition.
It's a school like any other. Its classroom has a blackboard, desks for students as well as course materials.
Even I tell my son that one of my daughter that I'm come to learn. And you say that your age that now we are coming. I say yes. When I sit to look after you, when you grow, finish your school. Now you two, I'm coming to collect chop money from you to come to school.
It's never too late. That's the idea motivating 63-year-old Sarah Esiri, a mother of 2 who wants to be able to express herself in a quaint language. Sarah and her classmates are here each day taking lessons from basic arithmetic to English rhymes.
If you calculate like 3 plus 9, why are you not going to put all the 12?
Why I didn't put all the 12 here?
Yes.
Yes.
Good is better, and my better best.
Very good. Drum.
Drum, the message afar. Learning to read and write.
It's a typical classroom situation, except these are adults. While they are at it, some of the children whose school facilities the adults are using are busy playing football on a compound. Their headmaster, Techi Kodam, explains why he decided to allow the use of the school.
And they also need the knowledge. And there's the agency looking at the people, the mothers, the fathers, the brothers and sisters who are out there so ignorant of what is happening. So there was a clear call to listen to them. I gave this facility over a year for free, nothing.
Back in the classroom, Reverend Joseph Yamwa is focused on his students. He tells me how brilliant they are.
I'm not facing problem over here at all. Actually, I'll give the student over the 80%, I'll give these people 70%. But I'm looking at the standard and how they get my teachings as early and then quick. I'm amazing. In fact, I'm amazing.
What could motivate an elderly person whose children are in school to want to be educated, especially at a time when they are far advanced in age?
I just want to learn that to help them. There is a time I'm not feeling happy in the house. So if I come to the class, I feel happy. And also I send I have 2 kids. One is a boy and one is a girl. They are all teachers. So I tell them that I want to happy myself. So, yes.
But earlier you said that you used to attend school, but you stopped at JHS 1. Why did you stop?
Oh, my father was dead. And my father and my mother was dead. So I just stayed with some people.
Yeah, but so far, how do you find the lessons here? What are you learning? Are you impressed with what you are learning?
Oh, it's fun for me. That even I tell my son that one of my daughter that I'm coming to learn, and he said that you are age that now we are coming. I say yes. When I sit to look after you when you grow, finish your school. Now you two, I'm coming to collect chop money from you to come to school.
I'm happy because now even I can learn with my children now, so I'm happy for that.
Are you able to assist them with their assignments when they bring them?
Yes, even they help me too. Sometimes I help them.
The first time you told your husband you were coming over for this kind of class, what was his reaction?
Well, she was happy because my husband likes reading books, and even always she fights with me that I don't like reading books. So the moment I told him, he was happy about that because always in the evening, the time he would come from work, we were reading. I was doing my homework, the children too was doing their own, so he was happy about that.
Okay. So I guess you can read a bit of what you have in front of you first.
Okay. So, where is the bag? The bag is on the table. Where is the book? The book is on the bag. I need a pen. The pen is also inside the bag.
Very interesting one there, reading bits and pieces of that passage and questions and answers in the book as well. Like you can guess, you're never too old to study, and these individuals here are taking advantage of the opportunity being offered by Engage Now Africa to receive some education, hopefully to improve upon the understanding of the language. More importantly, not just about reading and writing, but some arithmetic, which is important and an integral aspect of everyday life, for which reason they have decided to take part in this. Reporting for Joy News from the Wager DAJHS, not the regular school, but the adult class. My name is Joseph Akable.
Here in Accra, government marked the World Literacy Day with a commitment to provide ICT support for the elderly willing to learn. In Asimfo, so our sister station Adum FM's Alfred Amu reports women between the ages of 40 and 65 managed their way through the alphabet as their male counterparts competed amongst themselves in poetic recitals in a reading competition organized by Vanside Adult Development in collaboration with Engage Now Africa Foundation.
A, B, C, D.
EFTH IJKN MOOP QRS UVW
An, on, P, so, to, is, as, S, the up, off, no, me, it, to, she, if, to.
I am in. It is in. I am in. Is it in? I on. No, I am in. It is in. I am in. Is the dog. The dog is it in. Amen.
The title of my poem is Good, Better, Best. Good, better, best. May I never rest until my good is better and my better best.